And we are back for segment 3 of the greatest event in the world right now. We're in the worldwide, first ever online being experience. And wow, we got some exciting guests for you today. Besides that, you're all here and you're always our exciting guests. Anybody who's here for the third segment in a row, just kudos to you. This is a big, yes, Andres, I definitely know you a lot of people are, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. We're creating big things here, and I just honor and love your commitment and desire, each and every person present here. So thank you. As a little introduction, the topic is learning from the past and being present right now. Now, I have to be honest with you, I have zero recollection of my thought process in creating this section and what I intended at all. But that's great because I enrolled some other people to be responsible for that. And I'm going to pass it over to them in just a moment. But what I do want to share is what occurred to me in terms of who we're being in each moment. And it's something that I believe Dave Orton maybe mentioned previously, but as it comes to living with life and dealing with in front of us, this event that we are at right now, almost did not happen. This event was originally intended on being a live event in Chicago that I had been creating, and it came apart pretty recently, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And as part of the work of being, it's the constant creation and opportunity of what do you want to do now. And for me, a big process of being has always been, I never need to make anything happen. When I'm making something happen, when I'm trying to force something, when I'm trying to be powerful, when I'm trying to do what I think it means, is me creating resistance and getting in my own way. And when I can get present with right now, did you know that right now is always perfect? There is never any problems in the current moment. There's nothing you ever need. Well, yeah, no worries. See, it's okay. I've just been muted. All good. There's nothing that ever needs to happen. We never need to do anything. And the more I relax with that is when the creation gets to come into being. And so after I accepted that the Chicago event was not happening, in parentheses, it kind of still is, then this event came up where we're creating the online being experience. Let's launch this. Let's get this going. Even I think 2 days ago, Dave Orton called me. He's like, wait a second. What? Steve's speaking in Townsend? When did that happen? I said, I don't know. Sometime in the past week. It just occurred to me to create that. So I did. So that was, to me, one of the great learning experiences that I learned. It's, Ben also pointed it out. I had a vision and reality showed up differently. So I created with that. But that's a process. And our speakers today we're going to hear from, I think, are experts in being and experts in journeys and moving forward. And that's what we're gonna look at here. So at first I'm going to call upon Judy, if that's all right, Chris. I hope you're not like going to sleep soon. Chris is on a totally different time zone. A lot of us are. So anybody who's, I said this before, but it bears repeating, anybody who's on a different time zone and is committing themselves, not conveniently in the afternoon, like some people here, but are really stretching and rearranging their schedules for this. I really, really honor and acknowledge you. So thank you. And thank you, Chris, specifically for hanging out here. I'm gonna call on Judy. Judy, we, for those of you who don't know Judy, Judy is the reason why we're here, why there's such a thing as an event and experiences. Judy had a vision. And I remember when Judy first had the idea of creating an event in Arizona, Judy was, maybe I should, that'll be crazy. Maybe I should ask, no, but yeah, I'll just ask. And she like kind of just pushed through it, and she literally changed the world. And she is also an expert grief coach. So she knows her stuff about grief and grieving through things. And she's written a book, and I'm not promoting her right now. I'm just saying facts. I'm just acknowledging the facts here. So I didn't say go buy the book. That's up to you. See, I didn't say that, but I just acknowledging what Judy is. And so I am honored that Judy is here with us, has made time for us, and she's going to share with us a little bit her perspective. So with that, Judy, please take it away.
Whew, wow. Thank you for that introduction. I'm so honored to be here, but can I just share that about 3 a.m. I woke up and I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning and nervous. And when I went back to bed, I had this dream that I was speaking at the event, and the event was live. And I'm trying to get on stage. And if you've ever been in a theater, there are all these curtains backstage. And I kept going through the curtains and I couldn't find the stage. And then once I finally got on stage, my shoes were really slippery and I'm slipping and sliding. So I was probably a little anxiety, last night, a little anxious last night. But here we are, and I made it in the Zoom room. So I'm happy to be here. I love that Steve started off with the encouragement to come from a place of listening. And I want to say that speaking today, sharing today, I do not take this lightly. And I've come from a place of, if I only have 15 minutes to share my heart with the world, and it's the last 15 minutes that I have, what would I share? And so this is coming from a very deep place, and I'm just very grateful and honored to be here. For those of you that don't know me, I lost my son Jacob in 2019. And, when this topic of, bringing your how to learn from your past and be present, I thought about this concept of, my son passed from an overdose, and he was struggling with mental health and, depression, anxiety, from the past conversation, we were talking about that. And I think about the why. And if I stay in the why, I will just spiral all the way down, because those questions will never be answered. And every why question is going to birth another why question. And so I have learned to now stay in the what. What am I going to do with this experience? What am I going to do with this tragedy, this challenge that I've overcome? Not that you ever overcome a loss of a child, but having this persistence and this purpose and this declaration of, I am not going to allow Jacob's death to be in vain. And I'm going to use his story to make an impact in this world. And I have done that. And so a big thing for all of us, asking the question, why, the why questions, instead of asking the why questions, what do we get to do with this? And who do I get to be with this? So that is very, very powerful for me. Every year in January, I ask the spirit, God, universe, whatever, whoever he is for you, I ask for a word. And this word is what I meditate on. It's my intention for the rest of the year. So in January, the word for me was presence. And isn't it funny that here we are in August, and but I get to be in the segment talking about being present. So it's very, very powerful. And this is an area that I desired because it was something that I felt like I didn't have. You know, everybody says this about Steve is, wow, when you're around Steve, you feel like you're the only person in the world. And, you know, I've been around other beings like that. And honestly, I was a little envious because I'm like, how do they do that? How can they just be so present with another human being? And I desired that. And so this year I set out to this intention of how can I be present? And when I was creating the ultimate experience back in January, I'm going to share this story, and I hope it's okay with Steve. I've never shared this publicly before, but there was a meeting that Steve and I had, and I asked him. I said, Steve, is it okay if I record you because I want to send this to the team, and I don't want to miss anything? So is it okay if I record you? And he says, yes. Just make sure everybody deletes it afterwards, because as we all know, back then Steve didn't like to be recorded. He didn't like to be on camera. And we're so grateful that Steve is now gracing us with his presence. But back then in January, he was like, nope, just make sure if you record me, delete it right away. I said, okay, I promise. So we have this 45-minute amazing conversation, and Steve is acknowledging the team and he's giving me some amazing coaching. And after the 45 minutes, I hang up and I look at my phone and I replay it to send it to my team, and I realized it didn't record. So I called Steve right back. He wasn't there. It was just voicemail. And I said, hey, Steve, I don't expect you to re-record our whole conversation, but could you please just send me a recording of the last couple sentences you said, because they were so powerful. I don't want to misquote you. And then 2 minutes later, I get a phone call and Steve's on the phone, right? So I answer it. I'm all happy. Hey, Steve, not thinking anything of it. And the first thing Steve says is, you know, I love you, right? So for those of you who know Steve, you know what's coming. You know, I love you, right? And he says, this is why I do not like to be recorded. I was giving you this high level coaching and you were not present because you were so busy trying to figure out your recording. He's like, I will not repeat myself. Let this be a lesson for you to be present. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because he was absolutely right. He spoke to me. He wasn't yelling. It wasn't, mean, but he shared it from the depths of his being, where I got it. It shifted me. And a little bit later, I sent him a message thanking him for being so honest with me. And then this is what he responded back, and I'll never forget it. He says, where did it go? Presence, this is what Steve wrote back, says, presence is the ultimate state of being. Some think love is. Pure love is presence as a possibility. And I'll never forget that. That was so powerful for me. And some of the greatest compliments I've gotten this year is someone said to me, wow, when I'm with you, I feel like you're so present with me. I feel like I'm the only person in the world when you're with me. And it's so humbling, because I've always ever wanted that, right? That is something that I so desired. And by practicing being present, by practicing listening, that can happen for all of us. So I wanted to say that, yeah, when my listening, when I was not being present, I was concerned that when sometimes we listen to answer back, or we listen to have an opinion, or we listen to share our story, or we listen to one up the other person. And how cool is it to just come from a place of listening, just to listen out of honor and respect for the other person. I want to share a couple of questions that from my just work with people over the last 30 years, the two consistent questions people ask is, am I enough? And do I have what it takes? Always boils down to those two questions. Am I enough? And do I have what it takes? And as a possibility, I want to share with us that those questions can be answered within individually. So if you will join me, I would love to guide us in a very active exercise together. So if you would close your eyes just for a few moments, put one hand on your heart and one hand in your belly. Breathing in, big inhale, expanding your heart, your lungs, pressing your belly, empty out all the air. One more time, really breathe in as much air as you can, opening up the heart. Exhale, let it go. And take a moment to listen to your heart with the question, are you enough? Am I enough? And if we sit still enough to listen in our being, what does our heart tell us? And as we come a little bit lower down into our core center, where our intuition lives, our inner knowing, our wisdom, our spirit, what is your spirit saying to you today? Just take a few more moments here, being still, just being with these questions. Am I enough? And do I have what it takes? And piggybacking from the last conversation of acknowledgement and validation, that if we can answer these two questions within, we will need to seek them outside of us. So our next big exhale, let's just get some energy in the room. Wave your arms up in the air, clap your hands, open your eyes. Woo! I love you guys so much. And if you are willing and open to share what those answers have been for you in the chat, we'd love to see it. And I'd just like to pass it over to our next speakers and just be in conversation together.
Thank you, Judy, for that. And thank you for that. Whoever's going to respond in the chat, and you can always get back to Judy later if something comes up for you that doesn't come up for you now. And I want to make sure that we have enough time for all our speakers. So if you have a question or a thought or reflection, you can hold on to that. And if there's time at the end, we can address that. I want to bring us to our across the ocean friend, Chris Chitty. Chris has been one of those people that I can personally attest that I've met Chris through the Ultimate Coach Facebook group. I might have told you this, Chris, but the way Chris occurs to me is Chris appeared in the group and was like, boom, now he's here. And he was running with it. and he was posting and he's sharing and he's encouraging and he's inspiring. And I love seeing when people like just one day they're not there and then the next day they're there and it's like they've been there the whole time. And like, did I miss it? Chris has been a consistent, a powerful force. He's very, very knowledgeable. He's always learning and growing. And I am always inspired when I see from Chris. And I am honored to have him share with us whatever it is. See, I know that I could ask Chris to start speaking and he'll be able to start speaking. It's like, what do you want me to talk about? I'm like, Chris, you just go. I'm putting you in this segment that called this, but I trust you because whatever you share, I'll be able to learn from. And I'm sure everyone will also be able to. So please grace us, Chris.
Rephoel, thank you so much. So blessed to be here. And first of all, I just want to say, Judy, wow, you just blew me away. I know we've spoken about having some nerves before today, and you just are the example of overcoming those limiting beliefs, if you like. You're just doing it. Okay, so it's so beautiful. Thank you. And thank you to everyone. It's so amazing to see everyone here. So many names that I know and that I've spoken to briefly since that first appearing in the group, which was back in March, I think, something like that, when I ordered the book. And it's really interesting, Judy, that you said about having a word for the year, like a focus, because I work with people for their confidence, and back in the end of December, January, I was feeling like really down on my confidence. The whole thing, the imposter syndrome, the limiting beliefs, the who am I to do this, who am I to work with anyone, all of that thing, and part of that was related around online, because I was happy working with my clients face to face and one to one and all of that, and I love that. But this online thing was sort of a bit trickier for me. And I thought, well, how can I talk about confidence if I'm not doing that? So I sort of got a bit still about that and decided, what focus do I need? What focus do I need? And I've got things to give. I want to serve, but I'm not serving. What's going wrong here? I was ready to pack it in. And the word that came up for me was shine. And so it's so powerful that you've just said that, Raf, because back in January, back in December, I wasn't shining, I was hiding. And I think that's been mentioned before on here. And it just wasn't sitting well with me. It was so incongruent, because I'm pretty gregarious in life in general, but this online thing, this talking to this little thing up here, but it helps seeing all your beautiful faces, but talking to this little thing up here is like, oh, that's a bit weird to me. So I need to get over this. I need to shine. That's my thing. Okay. So that was like sort of level one, really. So I started doing some online or lives, live videos and stuff, Facebook, that sort of thing. Thinking this will be the answer, Chris. This will get you there. Take the steps, da da da. You will shine. You can learn. It's like a muscle. And it was, to an extent, and I was doing more of that, and I became more comfortable. But I started off, my heart was beating in my chest, and I thought, that's weird, because I've done loads of lives in the past and all sorts of things. But I had a bit of a gap, COVID and all that. So I was then pushing myself to get over that, and I got over it, kind of. And then I had a chat. So I was then posting, and I was posting text and images and creating images, using Canva and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, wow, I'm doing a great job here. I'm shining now. And I'm always, I have this saying that, I may be a master, but I'm always on day one of my next level. And I think a lot of people have alluded to that. Townsend sort of had that similar sort of mindset earlier on. And so I'm open, and I was thought, yeah, I'm shining. That's cool. I came into the group and I thought, well, I'm going to shine in here. So it's so interesting that Raph said, you came in and boom, there you were. Thank you for that. But I wasn't shining as me. I was shining as what I thought I needed to be, perhaps. Yeah, it wasn't real me. Anyway, there was this guy who got on a call with me and mentioned that to me. And when I say mentioned, he literally I came off the call and thought, I'm not sure about this guy anymore. Thought I liked him, not sure anymore. It hit home. Now that guy's name rhymes with, I don't know. It rhymes with Rephoel Wolf. Okay. I can't think of anything that rhymes with. That's weird. Okay. Anyway, he said, "You're not shining as you." Whew. Or words to that effect. He maybe, actually, he wasn't as kind as that. It was really funny, and I thought, what is he talking about? Da da da. Went away, and then it sank in, and I thought, no, he's right. I am not shining as me. I need to go to the next level on this. I need to shine as me. I've just made a couple of notes here. Yeah. So what happened then? I just started shining as me. I just posted things that I thought about, comments that came into my head. I got real. I would do lives. I'd go on live thinking, what am I going to talk about live here? Don't even think about that, Chris. Just go on live and tell people that it's okay to go on live, not even knowing what you're going to think about. That sort of thing. I like to encourage people. And then an amazing thing happened. The responses I was getting from people were just beautiful. People were saying, thank you for being real. Thank you for being this person that was real and was prepared to sort of talk about some of these things and prepared to shine out there as I really truly was, not the behind the curtain stuff. I'm not saying I talk about everything. I don't talk about all my rows with my beautiful wife or anything like that. I don't always do that. But everything that I do now is, and it was all real before, but it was kind of like theory, and this is like real, right? I don't know. That's the best way I can sort of describe it. So then, another little miracle, big miracle happened. So then I'm shining online. And at this time, so I'm now reading the book and I'm reading about the decorations and making my own decorations and so on. And I too, and I'm not going to go into all this now, but I too, in my mid-20s, I had depression, anxiety, agoraphobia, panic attacks, all of that. And I got over it. And my doctor actually said to me, one of my doctors said to me, "You realise you've got this for life now, don't you?" And I thought, that's not good enough for me. I need to find another way. So I decided to find a different way that worked for me. Not medically trained, but it worked for me. That was like 30 years ago, and I don't have that anymore. And if it starts to creep in, and I'm not saying it never starts to creep in, and that's part of the trick is noticing it. If it starts to creep in, I know how to deal with that. But more importantly, I proactively deal with that by what I'm doing. Anyway, so that's just park that over there for a minute. But the next thing that happened was I started shining more because I was shining more online as real me, and I was writing my declaration out. And I'm just going to literally read you very quickly how am I doing for time. Better speed up. 4 things from my declaration. So one is, and this goes back to my depression really, I'm light where there is darkness. I am hope. I'm here to disrupt your hypnotized self, to bring you out of trance so that you can rediscover your true self. And my love is so strong, it will affect you. And the miracle that happened was this started then happening in real life as well. Okay, so I thought I was shining in real life. I needed to shine online, but by shining more online, I found out I wasn't doing that as authentically as I thought I was. And then I did that more authentically, and then I found real life wasn't as authentic as I thought it was. So then I would go into a shop and say, rather than, seeing this guy who worked in a charity shop, who's always positive and always lovely, I would then go up and tell him. And I went and bought this thing, and I said, I just want to tell you, and the thing was it doesn't matter what the thing was. Anyway, I said, I just want to tell you what an amazing human you are, really, because you are just, every time we come in here, you're so positive, you're so helpful. It's really beautiful to see. And he turned around to me and said, I didn't used to feel like that, and that's why I came here. Thank you for noticing. Now, if I hadn't gone through that little journey and been kicked in the butt by Raph, that wouldn't have happened. So ripples, right? I don't know how I'm doing for time. I'm getting too far on time here, but that's kind of so let me. How can I wrap that all up? I'm going to wrap that all up by saying, as far as being goes, you know who you are. Okay, deep down inside, you know who you are. You know who you are deep down. When you get still, when you get really still, Judy just demonstrated that. We're love, right? And if you want to shine some more in your life, whatever it is, just start taking the steps, and things will happen, and things will get noticed, and you will shine your beautiful light in the world. Love you all. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much, Chris. That was very moving. You know what? I just wanted to throw in what just occurred to me when you had that story with the guy in the shop, is that, and that's also part of the acknowledgement piece, right?
Yeah.
Just if we could see like how nice it would be if someone just told us someone came over and just told us that random thing, right? There's no one that's too good or too secure for your acknowledgement. There's nobody who doesn't need it or doesn't appreciate it. And I just feel very connected to the story you shared, and that was very, very moving. So thank you so much for bringing that to light. And thank you for being you, for shining you. It's amazing.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks, Ref, and thanks for your huge part in that. It was life-changing.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm going to call on our third speaker for today. Andrea, I see that your hand is raised. I'm going to wait till after we have Otto is finished, and then please raise your hand again so that we remember to get back to you. Otto is also someone who I know from our conversations has been doing the work of being before being was a thing. And it could be we all have been in our own way, and that the being movement and the stuff that we've learned from the group in the book has just given new words to that. But Otto has just shown up, his commitment to who he's being, what he shares in the group and out of the group, his commitment to this event. Otto, I've learned from all of our conversations that I've had with him, and he's very, very wise. He's got his hand on the pulse, and I think he's a great person to have with us here today, in addition to all of you. And therefore, I am I graciously asked him to contribute, and he has agreed. So please, Otto, take it away.
Thanks, Rephoel. I appreciate that.
Hold on one second. See, and his voice is amazing. He's got this, I forgot, he's got this great speaker voice. Like, I'm sold. He just said, thank you. He's a very great speaker. I could listen to him, and it's he can't fake it. It's legit. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Rephoel. I appreciate that. I want to acknowledge Judy, and I want to acknowledge Chris for being in this segment with me. You two are amazing. I learned a lot by listening to both of you. I'm going to go back and listen and watch again. I appreciate that. Judy, you said something that kind of changed the scope of what I was going to talk about a little bit, but I'm still going to share some of what I originally had planned, and I'm going to come back because Judy asked the question that I think is one of the most important questions you will ever ask yourself. And that is, kind of a play on that. She asked, if I only had 15 minutes to share, what would I share? And then, we've all heard versions of that question of, if I only had 15 minutes to live, what would I do? Would I care about my job and all that kind of stuff? Well, I'm going to shift what I was going to speak about a little bit so that I can include part of, if this was the only opportunity I ever had to speak to somebody, to one person, to a group, didn't matter, what would I want to share? So I'm going to close out with that. But first, I want to tell a little story, because when I was asked to be a part of this group, the topic is learning from the past and living in the present. And as I think about that topic, one of the things that happened was it took me back to a story, to a real life story that happened, something that I carried with me for about 35 years. And it took me that long to see it differently. And it took me that long to heal from it. It was something that, it was a judgment, I'll call it, about my father. And it took me 35 years to let go of that. And just think about how often that we carry things with us that for 5 minutes, for 5 days, for sometimes 50 years, and we're holding on to these things. Well, in this particular case, it was 35 years. And what happened was, I was 13 or 14 years old at the time. And in my family, we moved around a lot, and still in the same little small town that I grew up in, but we moved around a lot. And so finally we moved someplace. My father, who worked at a foundry during the day, he was a country preacher at night and on the weekends, and he worked odd jobs. He was a very hardworking man. And so the first house we ever bought, I thought, oh yeah, we're moving up in the world, And we were there for, I guess, 5 years or so. And we started having, as a family, disagreements with this woman that lived next door that I'll call Mrs. Dobbs, Daubbs. Her husband's name was John. And so I saw that she was doing things, understanding I'm 13 or 14, and her dogs would bark all the time. And then I noticed that when my father would come in from work late at night, that she would curse at him as he came in, or she would spray him with the water hose. It's like, what kind of a woman does this? So one day, my father announces that we're moving. He's going to sell the house and we're moving. Meanwhile, I've lived at this place the longest I'd ever lived. I had some friends that were true friends, I thought, people that I went to school with and hung out with all the time. And I was devastated. I mean, I'm still 13 or 14, but I'm devastated. And so we moved, and it was also in the middle of the school year. So not only did we move, but I had to make new friends. I was riding a school bus for the first time, and, on and on and on. And when I thought about why my father did that, I had so many judgments. And the judgments were, he was a wimp. he let that woman push us around. That woman, was mean, and he should have stood up to her, and just on and on, all these things about what my father should have done instead of what he really did. My father passed away in 2013. Interestingly enough, he passed away on my birthday. So I have that gift of he died on my birthday in 2013. And in 2017, I decided to write a book about my healing journey with my father. And as a part of writing this book, I would from time to time consult with my mother and my sister when stories that I wanted to include in the book were a little fuzzy to me. So when it came time to put this particular story in the book, I asked my mother, I said, "Mom, why did we move from that house that we lived in?" And she looks at me and she paused and she said, "Well, he did it to protect you. He did it to protect you." And I was so confused by that he did it to protect me. I didn't understand why. But as it turns out, he was afraid that this woman was going to do something to physically harm me. So all these stories and all these judgments I had about my father for 35 years of how he wasn't a good man and how he didn't stand up to this woman and all of this stuff was totally wrong. And he did it to protect me. And what I got from that was, in regard to this topic of learning from the past and living in the present moment, was that I asked the wrong question. And the question that I asked all those years was, why did he do that? How did he do that? How could he do this to me? All kinds of questions like that. And, we're in this group and we've heard, so often from Steve and so forth that, thoughts are things, being is everything, and so forth. And so when I thought about that, the real magic is that the power is in the question. What is the question that you're asking yourself about whatever is going on? That's the power. And the power comes from, who are you being when you're asking that question? Are you somebody that's being vulnerable enough to ask yourself a different question that you might not have ordinarily? Are you curious enough to look for a new possibility when you've been stuck in the same one for sometimes many, many years? Are you enough of an invitation when you're in relationship with someone to invite them to a conversation that is difficult? And so I think it's so powerful to think about the question that you're living with all the time. What is the question that I'm coming from? Where is that? Who am I being when I'm asking that question of myself and that I'm living from? And finally, when I think of, if there's one thing that I'd want to share, that would be, if you could know this, and you would know that you're going to have a wonderful, happy, amazing life, I think it would be what I'm going to share right now. And that is, we're all always okay. It's just that sometimes our thinking would have us believe otherwise. And if our thinking comes from who we're being in the moment, you can shift that and you can change that at any moment. We're always okay. It's just that sometimes our thinking would have us believe otherwise. So with that, I'll pass this back to Rephoel, and I'll take any questions. And I've loved being a part of this group, and I've loved being a part of this conversation of learning from the past and living in the present moment.
Thank you so much, Otto. Wow, I want to repeat just the last thing you said, because that's really so powerful. And that's what I'm jotting that down over here. We're all always okay. It's just our thinking that sometimes has us believe otherwise.
Yeah, and going back to that, our thinking is a creation. We don't see it as a creation, because that's where we come from, is that place. We're creating all the time. It's just that we forget.
Yeah.
I loved in an earlier segment, Steve was talking about, well, if you're in this bag of skin, well, who are we, that's in here? That's who we truly are. It's not this guy that my mom and dad named Otto. It's somebody else. That person is something else. Some people call it a soul, but that person, there's never anything to fear. There's never anything to doubt. There's never any judgments except for the ones that we think of.
Yeah. Yeah. And also Steve mentioned, you are not your thinking. Your thoughts come and go.
Yeah.
So you get to choose to hold on to those or let that go. And I really like what you're pointing out. If we're all always okay, and it's just this thinking that comes in that we decide to hold on to and identify and make us not okay. So who am I being right then? And who could I be if I stop identifying with my thinking and remember I am okay?
Yeah.
Always. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So powerful. Let's sit with that for just a moment before we move on to our questions and comments. And I remember Andrea had her hand up. I don't know if you're still here, you still have one.
Go ahead and raise your hand again, Andrea, if you are still here, and then I can unmute you. If not, we can go to Judy.
Yeah. And I just I'm still sitting with what Otto said. Just one last thing. And that really fits with the topic so well, right? Because you're not who you were, or you're not your past experiences. And that's kind of the idea of learning from the past, but living in the present. You can, the past is a place of reference, but not a place of living. Who do I want to be right now, given whatever has been? What am I identifying with? Okay, now Judy can go.
All right, thank you. Wow, Otto and Chris, thank you guys so much. That was so powerful, and just an honor to be with you guys. I wanted to share a couple things that I totally forgot to share when I was sharing. And when I had that conversation with Steve about not being present and being more concerned about recording versus being really present to hear what he had to say in that present moment, it made me think about me being at a concert doing this, recording the concert, like the absurdity of that, right? Like, oh, I'm recording this on my little phone so I can enjoy it later, versus being here right now and enjoying it right now. And so I really got that. So thank you, Steve, for that. And also I wanted to share, kind of alluding to what Otto just said, is the thinking, right? That we have this power to change our thoughts. When I was with Steve, when we won the six-pack trip, and I asked him the question, I said, I feel like ever since I was little, I experience miracles all the time. There's miracles everywhere, and I'm just this natural manifester of miracles. I said, but I feel like maybe my luck's run out, or I've been too greedy and I've been hogging up all the miracles. So I'm just afraid that I'm going to run out. And it was so funny because Steve just said so casually, he says, well, those are just thoughts. Why don't you just stay with the thought that miracles happen for you? And when those other thoughts come in, don't think them. It seems so simple, right? But I am here to tell you that since shifting that, miracles happen all the time. I'm in bliss state all the time. Does that mean my life is perfect? No, but it is perfect, because like Otto said, everything is we're always okay. So I wanted to share those couple things that I forgot to mention earlier, and thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Judy. Does anyone else have anything that's coming up for them? Steve Hardison does. And Andrea there she got her hand raised. Let's hear it, Andrea.
Hey, thank you. That was awesome. I'm still sitting, marinating whatever in all of what you said, and really the presence thing keeps coming back. So it's just like firsthand, like this right now is everything. And and I wanted to add to what Chris was saying about shining and being present, because Chris, you connected with me when I was having a moment with a butterfly in a garden in the Czech Republic, and it was you, me, and this butterfly, and it was really spiritual. Like, it was this awesome peacock butterfly with eyes on it, and it was the most colorful thing I'd ever seen. And I was with you on via text, and it was just a beautiful experience. So this presence thing, the moment, sharing the moment, we were actually sharing a beautiful connected moment, because I feel like the butterfly was saying everything is going to be okay. So because the butterfly landed on this purple bush, which is like my mom's favorite color. And it was just amazing. So thank you for being there and with me, and being present and shining your light. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Steve, we have a few minutes for you.
So all of you, thank you very much. Chris, I loved what you said. It reminded me of a distinction. It's what I call concept versus experience. You know, there's a concept of Chris, and then there's the experience of Chris, and they're totally different. Like if you went into a restaurant and got the menu out, and you wanted to buy a hamburger, and you started chewing on the menu because it had a picture of the hamburger. That's the concept hamburger. The experience hamburger is the one that's going to be delivered at the table. And concept always is short selling. And sometimes we have the concept of love or the concept of appreciation, not the experience of it. The experience of it was what Andrea just shared, the experience of those two together. So the main place to take a look at this is, you know, what's the concept I have of me, and what's the experience I have of me? Someone who says, I got a document and they're reading concepts, it's a concept, but they really become the experience of really loving and caring for people. It's totally different than some words. There aren't sufficient words in language to have the experience. The ultimate, when I share with people, is I say, if I'm in my office, I say, see that electrical outlet over there? I said, I could sit here and we could read through all sorts of books about electricity, but if I give you this butter knife and you stick it in that hole, you will have the experience of electricity. It's way different than the concept of electricity. And I found that everything's like that. And there's a you that's authentically you, that's the experience you. There is no concept you that's better than that experience you. You've just been kind of fooling yourself that I can't really have this experience in me. Oh, yes, you can. Let it out. Go for it. It's you. It's beautiful. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for adding that. And that's such a great point. And that's like what you've shared with us about the entire thing about being. We can't really talk about being. As soon as we start talking about being and you go, oh, okay, so now in all my messages, I'll make sure to write loving you. Am I doing it right? Then you're not being. Then you're looking at a concept. I'm gonna probably use this distinction now. I love that. And everybody here, what one of the things that really impacted me, that occurred to me at Judy's event in Arizona, was the power of the presence of each individual person. Since the event, when I am speaking with anyone, I only do video calls. I don't do phone calls unless I really know you already, because your presence, my presence is unmatched. It's the experience. We can't even talk about what do we want to talk about if we're not having a face-to-face conversation. The being is all about, that's what this being experience is all about. We read the book, we read posts, we're in the group where there's a lot of cool things. And then it's, what do you do with that? How is that showing you? How, give people an experience of you. When you walk away from this call and you go out to the rest of your day, the person you next meet should know that something just happened to you.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I'd love for you all to sit with that. There's a half-hour break into the last segment, which is going to be in a half hour. So whoever is able to join us, I invite you to join us, and thank you for being with us until now. And even if you're going to go about your day and you're done here, just sit with that for another few minutes about your experience, who you are, you living that. It's not just a concept. It's I took a bunch of notes already here. It's not about, okay, let me go do this one. It's no, in your soul, go be that. Yes, Steve?
10 seconds. How many of you have seen the Mona Lisa at the Louvre? How many of you have seen a picture of the Mona Lisa anywhere? To be other than yourself is for me to paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. I ruin it. You are the Mona Lisa. Don't try to be anyone else but you. You ruin the portrait.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Really honoring, acknowledging each and every one of you for your commitment, for being here. And anyone who's on the replay, you're also being here. Thank you for your time. I hope you can join us for the final segment of this amazing event that we've created here today. And I will see you all soon.